Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to open up this first session of the SDB Award lectures for today. And I'm Vicky Prince, and I'm going to share my screen now as we go into presenting this year's Trainee Science Communication Award. So this is still a new award today presented for just the second time. It recognizes excellence in science communication and outreach efforts by an undergrad, grad student, or postdoc member of the society. Contributions appropriate for recognition by this award are construed broadly and may include teaching and communicating developmental biology and related areas of science, organizing outreach programs, or developing activities, tools, media to improve science literacy, engagement, appreciation, or access to careers in science. So I'm sure you'll all agree that these are very important things for not just the future of developmental biology, but science as a whole. So today I'm really delighted to announce that this year's winner of the Science Communication Award is Dr. Julia Derk. Dr. Derk is a postdoc at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, and her remarkable commitment to science outreach and advocacy epitomizes the entire spirit of this award. Dr. Derk is an accomplished and productive researcher who, while still a graduate student at NYU, launched several important programs. The most notable of these is the most notable of these is the Clear Direction Mentoring Program, which Dr. Derk launched in 2014 together with a fellow graduate student. This mentoring program was designed to bridge a potential breakpoint in the pipeline to STEM careers that occurs at the all-important transition from high school to college. The program has used intensive one-on-one mentoring of underrepresented or disadvantaged high schoolers by grad students or postdocs, as well as a wealth of additional programming, all focused on the critical 2 or 3 year period when students plan for and move on to college. Of the more than 50 students to have completed this program, 100% have entered college and 93% are studying STEM fields. Recently, Dr. Derk has obtained IRB approval to retrospectively evaluate the impact of the program on its alumni, and she's launched a new Denver chapter of Clear Direction, which also continues on in New York. In addition to Clear Direction mentoring, as if that wasn't sufficient, Dr. Derk co-founded 2 other organizations at NYU, one with a focus on equity and justice in STEM and evidence-based policy, and another aimed at addressing harassment and the mental health crisis in grad and medical school. Throughout all her efforts, Dr. Derk has demonstrated creativity, strong leadership, a collaborative spirit, and a truly inspiring ability to make change. Julia Derk is not only a deserving recipient of this award, and here it is, very beautiful. She's also an inspiration to all of us in the SDB. So Julia, congratulations on this well-deserved honor. I am very excited to hear your presentation. So with no further ado, I would like to turn over to you, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prince. That was an absolutely incredible introduction, and I feel so honored to be here with you all and with the other awardees. It's exciting, it's overwhelming, and yeah, I'm going to dive right in and talk a little bit more about Clear Direction mentoring. So I accept this award on behalf of the over 100 people that have been students, their parents, their teachers, their mentors, as well as all of our families that have contributed to supporting us in this effort for thousands of hours of outreach and work. As discussed previously, this was co-founded with my very esteemed colleague, Dr. Russell Leday at NYU School of Medicine. Upon being elected to be president of the student council, I realized that there was no diversity and outreach chair. And I aimed to subvert some of our attention and focus towards really working on improving our community and our relations for helping people to get into STEM. And with Dr. Russell Aday, we used this as our brainchild, and we went out and we tried our best, and we've iterated a lot over the course of the last 7 years. And so it started just kind of bringing students together, and now it's a very formalized mentorship program that I'm going to talk to you about more today. We also have a really incredible board of directors without which this work would be impossible. We have an advisory council, including Dr. Aday and others that have been on the board of directors or have been instrumental in supporting us to understand how to improve this program. And finally, my mentors and nominators have always been incredibly supportive of all of this work. And that has been so important, especially as a burgeoning graduate student, still working on my first papers and grants, to have them to be so supportive and so conscientious about caring for me through this process has been incredible. Okay, so the whole premise of this organization is based on a couple of observations and a fundamental belief. So we know now about the leaky pipeline to STEM. And in 2001, this is actually following kind of my trajectory. There are 4 million ninth graders in America. And over the course of them matriculating into high school, making college plans, being college ready, majoring in STEM degrees, and then ultimately getting those STEM degrees, only 4% of us actually did it. And when you look at communities that have been historically minoritized, or people that come from disadvantaged or disabled backgrounds, these statistics are much worse. And so Clear Direction Mentoring has this fundamental belief that the issue with diversity in STEM is not due to a lack of capacity or interest in these diverse communities, but rather systemic failures, discrimination, and a lack of community resources that lead to a chronic loss of talent. And so Clear Direction is very specifically focused on students that have already matriculated into high school and getting them over these very leaky parts of the pipeline to be majoring in STEM careers and doing a 4-year college degree. But we do plan to expand all the way through college into grad school and grow as our students grow up. And so the way that we aim to resolve this is through long-term, one-on-one group and peer mentorship support. And we recruit our fellows currently in Colorado and New York. And we have them do a lot of different essays, as well as letters of recommendation from their teachers, to show that they display a passion for STEM careers. And we also follow the NSF and NIH guidelines from the Women, Minorities, and Persons with Disabilities in Science and Engineering. So as we continue to get more data about who is underrepresented, we are going to continue to be fostering connections with those communities of people. And at the DEI table, we talked a lot about how the language around who's in these populations and how to refer to these populations is very lacking. So sometimes we say historically minoritized groups, sometimes we say underrepresented minority. All these words are insufficient, and I am going to try my best today to be as respectful and utilizing them as I can, but I do also want to be part of the ongoing conversation that we all need to have for how to be better with our language and our actions. And here's a case example of one of our fellows. I got permission from UA. He was actually my fellow very early on in the program. And here he is holding a human brain. And I'm going to walk you through his journey, which is not unlike many of the other fellows that we've worked with. So before meeting with UA, his mentor, me in this case, but everybody else, also got 3 different 2-hour sessions of mentorship training. And this is absolutely critical for setting the tone. So day 1, we talk about an introduction to CDM, where resources are, what communication expectations are, et cetera. And we also talk about mentorship strategies. So how can you avoid stereotype threat and feeding into imposter syndrome? What are examples of micro affirmations? What are the resources available to the mentors to continue their ongoing learning? On day 2, we invite mentor and fellow pairs that have been really successful to come and talk, and we do case studies and we interview them and we ask them, how did you deal with cross-cultural conversations? How did you deal with being from different generations? How did you bridge these gaps and what made it work for you? Really focusing on the fellows telling us what was most effective. And on day 3, we have really intense, emotional, vulnerable conversations about race and about disparities that are within STEM, as well as disparities for health disparities and how this impacts other people that are outside of STEM education. So then Ua got matched with his one-on-one PhD student mentor. This can also be a postdoc. And this was in his sophomore year of high school. And the crux of our program is this bond, and it lasts throughout his high school journey as he applies to and enters college. But importantly, we also use the cohort model. So through experiences with UMBC Meyerhoff and Posse and other really effective cohort programs, we have learned that bringing in peers of other brilliant, fun, driven students that are also interested in STEM is quite effective. And it cannot be overexpressed that Ua finds these people to be cool. He has other social bonds and relationships with them. If he's late or if he doesn't show up for something, they're texting him, or they see how much fun they're having on each other's Instagrams and things like this. And this social bond is so important for validating the relationships between them, but also for maintaining desire to stay in the program. So then Ua participated in 7 different immersive STEM educational events per year. And here is an example of our Neuroscience Academy, which is really fun. So first of all, he gets to develop positive experiences that will help him to create his own identity within the STEM field. Also, he has peer mentorship and team building with the other people in his cohort. And importantly, sometimes these events are ran by his mentor and sometimes they're ran by other mentors. And this is a distribution of labor strategy so that we're not overloading the mentors and they don't have to run the educational event every single time we have one. But it's also because different people speak differently, learn differently, have different passions. So we have a lot of cross coverage here so that in case you don't have the same exact passion as your mentor, you can have other mentors around you within your network. By the time Ua was a senior, he spent weekends in the lab and he was leading a lot of events to mentor the younger students as well as a peer mentor, building his leadership capacity. And after 3 years of CDM, Ua now graduated from high school with honors and he's studying nursing at Hunter College. He's also has sights of being a nurse practitioner and studying health disparities. And he's currently doing his first ever paid internship through CDM at NYU School of Medicine. So this is one example, but we've transformed the lives now of 72 high school students that have completed the program for multiple years. And we have these cohorts in NYU School of Medicine and University of Colorado, Denver. And I just want to do a quick shout out for some of the other people that are involved in developmental biology. So we already have a huge play in this program. Here's Kristen Delia, and she's at the meeting today in the program. This is her fellow, Natalie Vu Grisham, that also did an internship within our lab. And this is Ibrahim Abdel Wahab, and he is in Jeremy Nance's lab currently at NYU School of Medicine. So already there's a huge partnership between these two organizations that's burgeoning, and this is the future of SDB, I hope. So the other thing what we referred to before is that we do now have IRB approval to do a retrospective study of the impact of clear direction. And we focused a lot of our questions on Likert scale type questions that are asking the students about their satisfaction, their confidence, and how important they found clear direction to be different aspects of their life. And what we see is that when we ask them about access to STEM opportunities before clear direction or after, or STEM mentors before clear direction or after, we have a significant effect on both. And also, this is a lot of different variables that we were asking them about in terms of how important clear direction was to different aspects of their life. And the thing that I want to point out first is that blue or red would be not at all important or slightly important. And yellow through purple is moderately to essential. And when we asked them how important was clear direction to your belief that you could succeed as an underrepresented minority in STEM, 2/3 of them said essential. And when we just asked in general to your life, 2/3 of them said quite important and 1/3 said essential. So what is it that's so unique and impactful about the CDM method? This is what we think. First of all, it's long-term, it's collaborative, and there's a lot of opportunity to build upon trust. So people have a lot going on. When you're doing your comps or when you're doing your thesis defense or something happens, a lot of times you can dip out of that relationship. So we need that coverage of a lot of other people really chronically empowering someone. And also, it's one-on-one group and peer mentorship. So we always say teamwork makes the dream work, and we really fundamentally believe that. We're doing man-on-man and zone coverage. So in any sort of way, if something falls short, there's so many different layers of support that are going to be keeping that student within the community. Finally, this whole thing was built on friendship and by a distaste and a heartbreak to see so much lost talent, and it's really genuine. So these very honest relationships that are cultivated through listening, friendship, and adaptability have been, modeled for the students. We constantly ask them to do anonymous surveys. We have open talkback sessions, and when they give us feedback, we celebrate that feedback, we iterate, and we adapt, and we are nimble. And finally, we ourselves are diverse and inclusive. This is not about evangelizing someone else or uplifting someone outside of our community. This is our community. And so we go to this quote all the time. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. And we go back to this leaky pipeline all the time, but we've known about this for 20 years. So one of the major questions I get asked all the time is, why don't we have better solutions? And the long of the short of it is that there's nothing simple or quick about how we're going to solve this problem. Humanity is complicated and our issues are deep-seated. However, I do have a couple of critical barriers that I have personally faced and some ideas for how to remove them. I also removed about 25 slides because of time. So if you want to talk about this further, I have a lot of other ideas for how we can improve these types of outreach efforts. But the first one I want to talk about is stigma. There's still stigma against doing this type of work. And I think we have to think beyond ourselves as individuals and our own research projects and rather focus on the scientific enterprise at large and what we're all trying to do as a community and a culture together. Science is only made possible by the people that have access to do the experiments, to think through the experimental design, and to execute these studies. And we are missing out on talent every single day. So the stigma has to stop. Second, people often discourage outreach because it's time away from the bench. And the first thing I want to say is that the whole point of doing this is that we subvert a small subset of time from the months of mentors to cultivate an increase in our talent, an increase in the number of people that can do it. And case in point, here's my first author paper from graduate school in which the third author is one of my Clear Direction mentoring fellows. This is about getting talent to the bench. It's not about time away from the bench. Second, this implies that our job is not to mentor the next generation of STEM, which it is, or that we don't have a duty to do the right thing, which we do. We're some of the best trained thinkers in the world, and we see overwhelmingly through the data that there is a problem, and we are creative, we are bright, so we need to try to fix it. And on a really human level, I just want to say that these comments are hurtful. So this is honestly a rude thing to say. And it ignores the ongoing legacy of our mentors' successes. We have incredible papers. We have incredible reviews. We're HHMI fellows and F31 NRSA fellows. These are incredible people that are working really hard. And this is not, taking away from their work at the bench. This is allowing them to train as mentors, as thinkers, as leaders. Finally, there's often a lack of acknowledgement for this work, and disproportionately people that come from these communities have to do this work. And that can lead to the diversity tax, in which people are disproportionately having to do a lot of outreach work. And this is everyone's job. So this is what I ask of everyone today. We all have a sphere of influence, and we can make positive changes towards incentivization. You can write on your grant, performance, or tenure reviews that you are favorably reviewing someone because they do this work. You can integrate into your websites, job ads, and hiring practices explicit mention and practice around the desire to hire these people. And you can do what my mentors have done, which is tell me over and over again that they support me doing this work because it's integral to the scientific process. And finally, there's a huge fear, and I face this every day. I'm dealing with this second, this moment, and there's a fear of doing it wrong. And here's what I have to say. You will absolutely do something wrong. You are going to make mistakes. But the bigger mistake is inaction in the face of overwhelming data that we have a problem. And there are a lot of other organizations that are doing this very well. Join them, be a follower. You don't have to be an expert in all of this stuff. And I certainly don't see myself as an expert in this, but just trying every day to make a little bit of interpersonal and emotional and like inside of myself change can really make a huge difference. And this is people's lives we're talking about. And this is our whole scientific enterprise we're talking about. It's really important. So this is how I think that you could possibly get involved in it. And this is the future of Clear Direction. First of all, we have a Twitter, Instagram, and website. On that website, there's opportunities to learn more about all of our fellows, to donate, to learn more about the program. We'd love to have you as volunteers on our career panels and events. The students love talking to scientists, and so we have Zoom events all the time. We'd love to have you come talk to our fellows. And you can email us your ideas. Maybe you have something that is, a burning desire for you to get involved in, and we could be a mechanism of, reaching a population that could really enjoy learning from you. Next, we have some large-scale financial realities that we need paid summer internship spots for our college fellows. A lot of them are going through high school, getting great grades in college, they're studying biochemistry, and they're working in Amazon warehouses because they need money over the summer. So they can't take an unpaid internship position, and we need to pay them in the summer. If you have spots in your lab or ideas for how to get grant funding for this, we would love to work with you. You could also hire us and we can talk to you more about our mentor training. We could do focus groups or consultation to improve your program. We love talking about mentorship, and in the last 7 years, we've learned a lot, and we'd love to share what we've learned with you in addition to the papers we plan to write about it. Finally, we're a burgeoning nonprofit in need of financial support. So this has previously looked like personal and institutional donations. This is an example of the MSTP Women in STEM funding our students going to see an open heart surgery, and they did a fundraiser. We want to apply for more grants. So if you have any funding mechanisms or if you want to co-sign on those, we would love that. And we also want to start holding benefit events. And we also want to start chapters at other schools, but this is obviously a way larger commitment. So it's about $6,000 a year, mostly food and transportation, because we've got to get the kids there, and you need food in order to be thoughtful and thinking deeply. It would also require a university or departmental champion, so a faculty, dean, or an administrator that could support. And this is the easiest part, is finding a cohort of graduate students and postdocs that are passionate about building clear direction mentoring in their community. So thank you so much for listening to this story. I am so honored to accept this award on behalf of the entire community that's worked so hard on this. And I really feel so humbled to be amongst such incredible scientists and people, and I really appreciate this.